Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you might be in the world. My name is Scott Robertson. I'm coming to you from Rocklin, California, which is in Northern California, USA, just outside of Sacramento. I'm going to try a little something different today. Usually I post videos of some of the layout designs that I do, but they're usually just uh, still pictures put together with a few videos of the trains running, but I thought today I might talk my way through this a little bit and kind of tell you what's going on in this design, and we'll see how this works. Never done it before. We'll see how I can do. I don't have a script. We'll just see where we go. So what I'm going to present today is this, what I'm calling a urban switching layout. This is an O scale layout, although it could be at any scale. Just for give you an idea, the distance from here to there is about 28 feet, and this is 12 feet. This aisleway in here is about 2 feet, and what I've done is around the edges in a room that's actually a friend of mine. He has a large basement that's 36 by 20, and I'm always using his basement as a canvas to experiment with different designs in. So not your typical bedroom size layout area. But I've allowed for 4-foot aisleways around uh, these parts of the layout. And then in order to make this somewhat realistic, I tried to make this so that the reach distance from any one of these areas wasn't more than 36 inches max. The worst case we have is in here. Most of this is in the 24 to 36-inch range. Um, and again, I'm just pretending that maybe it's for me. I'm a rather tall person and I could handle that. Plus, it's a flat situation, and that if you were building, this could be done. It's not recommended, or I wouldn't recommend typically, reaches any more than 30 inches um, for construction purposes. And if you were to have to get a derailed car or something off the line. But for this process, that's what I'm going with. So anyways, again, I'm saying this is an O scale layout. In HO scale, it might be roughly half that size, although this aisle would get a little too narrow. So this initial design could probably be done a little bit differently. I like O scale. I like urban layouts. Um, I like narrow gauge also, which I do a lot of. But I like the idea of the urban type situation, and I also like seaport scenes, etc. So this design really kind of creates a little bit of all of that. And for those of you who like operations, switching and things like that, something I'm not that into, but I understand it's enjoyable to many. Um, this kind of a design really lends itself. It's actually based on a real freight yards, or used to be real freight yards in New York City, I believe on the island of Manhattan. Could be wrong, but I think it's in Manhattan, to where they would bring uh, things in across the river from New Jersey, Brooklyn, wherever, um, and then by barge. And then they would come to these freight terminals, which are surrounded on most sides, if not all sides, by streets, and you were in the city. And the idea that the freight would come off of the barges, they would come into these yards, be broken up, delivered to these different warehouses or businesses around the way, unloaded either in the warehouses for distribution by truck into the city or directly by truck from these areas here. So, in one of the original designs I based this on, this uh, barge area and wharf area, well, was actually a little bit farther in that direction, and there was a highway, well, now a highway, but it was a big street that ran along the river area that separated it from that. So there was a little bit more of a yard lead coming into this barge situation. So we have a little bit of selective compression, if you will, in this design. I also just was working off of some pictures, some images of some fire maps that showed some of the layouts. So I was sort of guessing where things laid out. So it's not a perfect layout, and it would probably be a little bit more compacted where this area would be pulled down this way. But again, in our reality of a model railroad, that area becomes so unwieldy to work around that it just didn't seem to work. So I spaced it out a little bit more, and that's how the layout got to be the size it was. I could have also probably pulled this back in a little bit more, but I just decided to create 4-foot aisles around the way and then use the remaining space as I see fit. And this is what I came up with. So what we have here is some warehousing facilities down at this area where you can stack up to 3 rows of cars side by side. In reality, they could put planks or bridges in between each of these cars and unload those cars all at the same time right into the warehouse facility, so you didn't have to shuttle cars around. They also had in those designs areas where you could just unload directly into trucks, um, and so and then some storage area for breaking up trains as you're bringing them in and out. Here's a team track area for smaller deliveries. Over in this area here, there was a gantry type um, offloading for something that might need to be lifted out of a gondola or a flat car onto flatbed trucks, etc. So the trucks would come in and go and then make their deliveries wherever they're making the deliveries. I've included a yard office in this design and also a small engine service facility. They didn't seem to show those on some of those designs, but I assumed that they were located somewhere nearby where when you come off of one of these wharf areas, these lines kind of split up and went down the street, went into this terminal, and went into another terminal. So I'm guessing somewhere along there was some sort of engine servicing facility just to take care of small engines on a daily basis. I've gone ahead and added some other industries in here, not just some warehousing. And again, because of my constraints on being able to get in and out and around and reach these areas of the layout, should a layout like this be built, I've included another warehouse on this area side, another warehouse here, Railway Express Agency in this case. This is a little coal dealer. I thought, coal could be brought in, dumped, and coal being brought into town. And then I've made a direct connection from this area to a wharf area. And the game I'm playing is, well, let's pretend that I'm also a modeler, enjoys building model ships, 148 scale. And I also like collecting 148 scale vintage cars, in this case, 40s and 50s. So we're going to set the area in the early 50s, somewhere around there. And that means I can use smaller equipment, 40-foot box cars, for example, dockside switchers, small switch engines, diesel engines, maybe a box cab. I'm not sure if this diesel switcher here is actually in the right era, but I just have it on here for now. But there's a lot of places to display cars. There's parking lots for the workers who are here. A lot of detail that can be put into the scenes and a lot of switching opportunities using the barge basically as a cassette, if you will, a staging area to pull uh, cars off, stack them somewhere, either on this uh, divide here where you can do a runaround, or in these small yards on the side where you can dump cars off while you're pulling cars in and out. And there's a limit to what some of the length of these leads are, so that helps control some of your switching operations, and you have to think ahead as to how many cars and an engine can I pop in there at any one given time. Little background on this design itself. Again, this is all me designing it, kind of based on historical layouts. But it's me laying down the track and the buildings and the cars and all the detail, et cetera, et cetera. I'm using a program called Trains, a 2019 version. It's a 3D simulation program that basically it's a gaming program, but you can build your own worlds with it. In this case, I like to use it to build model railroad worlds, and you can build the railroad in any scale you want. You're basically not changing scale, but just some of the features that you bring into it, some of the room elements. If you bring in people to stand around in the room, of which right now there are only HO scale features, then you get the relative feeling that, oh, it's an HO scale layout. In O scale, it is that, but the people look a little odd, so I don't use the people, etc. But knowing the dimensions, and it just gives me the idea of what can fit in a room or what can't. So I find it a very creative program, very robust program, and at the end of the day, which we'll do here in a minute, you can actually run trains and switch tracks. And that's what all these little lights and things here are. These will go away in a minute, but they all denote all my switch points, directions of the switches that are thrown. The little arrows here were some markers that I put in that I was able to change the distance that I'm away from the actual switch points to when I then can throw the switch. It's normally set up for 20 meters away, which means you get way far away before you can actually throw that switch. I have it set down to 1 meter. It's in meters because the program was developed, I believe, in Australia. So everything's on a metric system, but they do have an imperial part that gets into this. So when I'm doing measurements with a measuring tool that's a part of this, I'm doing it in English measurements. So with that said, uh, I'm going to do a little manipulation here and show you what's going on. And we're going to take this set of cars here. We're going to move them up the line here, stack them out here. I'm going to go back, pull these cars out, get them out of the way, and then pull these cars in and put them back, and then take those cars and put them back over here. Just to give you an idea of what a um, switching operation might entail and how long it might take. And you can imagine if this was a real layout, you could have 2, 3, 4 people maybe working this layout at any one given time. Um, I would assume that the switches would be all motorized in some way, and you would need some uncouplers. I would probably recommend doing some sort of magnet uncouplers. Some of the reaching in between might be a little difficult, but all of that could be done. And again, this is O scale. I just like the chunkiness of O scale and the detail that can be put into it. So that's what I designed it for. So, but it could be N scale, HO scale, whatever you want. Just make adjustments to size is how that goes. So let's do a little train here. So I'm going to do a little manipulating here. I'm going to reach up here just off menu, and I'm going to turn on my drive session. It's in a paused mode right now. And now you can hear some of the sounds kicking up. That's the other thing that comes with this is there's actually sounds of engines, of the engines or locomotives you're using. If there's any type of industry that has some sort of machinery in it, you hear that. So that gets a little annoying. So hopefully you can hear me over this. But for the most part, we're just going to kind of work our way through and do this. I believe I have all my switch points set all the way through. Let me just double check those, which is what a good engineer would do anyways. This is going before he gets on. He's the switchman ahead of him. So with that said, we'll do a little overhead shot, then I'll kind of zoom around a little bit and go from there. But let's get this thing moving here. So this is a little dockside switcher that's pulling out. Try to do it at somewhat realistic speed. Being careful not to wrangle that barge too much. I know that there are special ways to maneuver a barge, at least from what I read, the way you want to pull out certain cars, so many at a time, pick up the other ones. For this exercise, I'm just going to pull out this 6 cars and get us moving here as we're going along. I want to do a little maneuvering, give you a little bit more idea of the 3D view. So you can see here the room, I left the back walls off, but you get the idea of kind of room size relative to the layout. And I can also zoom in to get a better look at the detail that's going on and follow the train as it's going through. So I'm going to reach a point here to where I'm clear. And I'm going to leave those cars. Yeah, we'll let them sit right there for a moment. I'm going to go in. I've got a screen you can't see here. I'm clicking the uncoupling. I'm going to uncouple the engine. And then we're going to continue backing out. Now I'm going to pull a set of cars out from here. What I have learned is the siding in this back area here, I think we're going to find out. I believe I can only secure this engine and 4 cars at a time. So I've got to do be a little bit careful on what I pull in and out. Oops, sorry about that. Get over to where it's at. So I'm going to slow it down here a little bit. Get back to that switch. I should be fine. I should be able to throw the switch, which I can. Get us going in the other direction. And then we'll go and we'll grab that first set of cars. And I guess if you're doing operations, you might use a cart sorter, or people use JMRI, I believe it is, computer programming to set up their switch lists. So the way I see that, that's a whole hobby unto itself. I like to run trains and watch trains run by and do scenery and neat scenes. So this is all a little new to me, so that's why what I'm doing is pretty rudimentary right now. The project also, by the way, was completely encircled by fencing with gates coming in, so it was all very secure. So I've shown that with sidewalks out here and then some fencing. Make sure we're set correctly back here. We're going to find out in a minute if I'm correct and how much space I have. This engine also has a little bit of momentum, so I have to be careful. I just have to clear this switch, so I should be okay. So I'm going to stop it there. If I were to run into the bumper, it'd be like derailing the engine, and it would give me an X, and it wouldn't work. So it's a bit like doing the real thing. So now we're going to go forward again, and I'm going to shove that set of cars in here for the time being. Oops, you know what I didn't do? Oh, I did do it. There we go. Thought I hadn't thrown that other switch, but I guess I did. So I'm just going to store those there. If I had a shorter string, I might have been able to bring them back here, set them over there. But I don't know that I could get all of them in there at one time. So we'll just do this. So now I'm clear. Go back and do my uncoupling. Get it going again. When I go back, I'm going to want to go that way, but I'm going to want to go on that switch there. And let's stop it there. Let's make sure which switch I'm throwing. Yep. I'm going to come back through. I want to make sure, yep, that's correct. I want to throw that. I want to go pull those other cars out. So here I go, moving forward. Don't know that I need to sound the whistle, but I just thought, hey, it's kind of cool. What's sort of neat about this engine too is the engineers and the firemen inside, they spin around when you go different directions. When you're getting close, it's kind of neat the way that works. One of my favorite engines ever since coming across this engine in John Allen's Gore Undefeated Railroad. Used to be I think a Varney used to make this engine. But I just always loved it. So now we'll pull those other two cars out. That switch is set, so I can just stack those in there. This other siding's full. And again, I'm not trying to work too fast. I'm trying to do what I'm guessing is somewhat of a scale speed. And those slows down. Let's see where I can, right about now. There we go. So I can stop that. Head back the other way. You do a little bell on it, let people know you're coming through the yard. Figures to be a lot of activity in these yards. And there we are. I'm going to go through a couple, back my way out. Once I back my way out, I think I'll go ahead and throw that switch, because I'm going to come back in here and pull those other cars. So see, it gets about a meter past, it's right there. I'm ready to go. And now I'm going to come forward and grab my other string of cars that I left behind before. See if I can show you that when the engineer spins around here. Don't want to slam anybody, so I'm going a little bit slower than I probably need to. And there we are. Now, you watch these guys in here when I change directions. Oh, maybe it's just the, oh, no, he flipped around also. You can see he's flipped around going the other direction there. Before I get too involved. Slow that to about there, and while I've got it, I'm going to go ahead and cut that set of cars because I know I can get 4 back in there. Can leave that other set there. See that? Sorry about that. need enough room just to clear that switch back in this area here. And once again, I've laid these turnouts out. They're tight. They are what they are. I can't be precise in their measurement. That's not how this program works. But I think they're close enough to being realistic that if you were to build this with real switches or hand-laid switches even, you'd be looking at number 4s, number 5s, maybe an occasional number 6, but I think you just stayed at number 5s for the most part throughout the whole situation. So I've now thrown that switch, and we'll be moving forward and replace those cars we just took out. And you can imagine that this is going on all day, dawn to dusk, maybe into the evening, I don't know. Barges coming and going. So if you're playing, real railroad here and you're doing this on a model railroad, there's quite a bit that can happen, a few hours, couple hours, whatever it is, of switching back and forth, maybe changing the cars out on the cassette, again, playing with your cards, figuring out what you're using, and then starting over again. Especially if the yard got really full, then you'd have quite a challenge in figuring out where you can place things, how you can move around, and if there's more than one of you, that's a whole other challenge all unto itself. You see when you let them go and it still has some momentum, the cars will actually drift, so you have to be careful with that. So it really is a pretty neat program the way it's set up. You can even run it like you're running a real steam engine. That's not something I do. I'm just going, we're going to go a little bit farther. Not paying attention here. There we go. So I'm going to come back here and get these, other cars. Sorry about that. Just want to make sure switches were properly thrown, so I didn't do this 2 or 3 times, which I have done. That's part of playing this game, if you will, or getting used to doing this. I know some people, if they screw up, they have to put $1 in a jar, kind of like a swear jar. See if I can slow down. Kaboom. And now we're ready to take these guys out. We'll stack them back in their place. And again, I'm not saying this is an efficient way of doing it. I'm just trying to demonstrate how the program works, what's all involved. For people who do this or enjoy doing this, I'm sure they could see a lot of different ways to do stuff. Maybe even setting up the track work a little bit differently. Again, if it was a real layout, passed it just enough. Look at that, perfect. If it's a real layout, the switches might lay out a little bit differently. There might be farther spots in between. You might be able to create a runaround. This is one runaround, and there's a really long runaround down here. So again, depending upon how long your cut of cars is, you might be able to do quicker maneuvers. But again, this is a concept design. It's fairly detailed, and I think it's pretty accurate overall. I've actually taken a few of these designs, and I've placed them in, or I've recreated them in other types of drafting CAD programs that use real switches and tracks, and I've been pretty close where I've been able to make them work. So I feel pretty confident what I'm showing here is fairly realistic and not that pie in the sky of a layout design. So I'm going to try to line these guys up so the doors are across. Let's see if we're going to do that. Not too bad. I'm gonna go back just a tad. Boom, right there. So now what we have is these doors are lined up. I probably should have shoved those in a little farther, but I think we're okay. I think I just disconnected that, didn't I? Nope, I did not. See, I'm talking, not paying attention. So that's on me. Again, I know people that they time themselves on this. What's the most efficient way of doing it? That was not it. So here we go again. We back out. And we'll swing around. Whoops. Got to go in and grab these guys. That's right. Forgot I had set those in there. Which was the whole point of this exercise. I can back those out. And I think I can grab all of these at one time. I don't have to go all the way back into that lead. I think I have the room to do that where I'm at. Pretty sure I do. So what I need to do is just get past that switch. With that car, and I should be clear. And that. Go forward. I've heard tell of people who do operations and they actually kind of allow for a certain number of seconds to unlock the switch, throw the switch, things like that. So they really have it timed down, have the switchman or the brakeman walk back to the back of the car, all of that. So they're really doing it in real time. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Now I just have to get clear of this one, and hopefully it doesn't make me a liar. And I think I just have enough room to do that. Yeah, we do. Perfect. So now we're going to take this string of cars and sorry about that. Pull out here a little bit, and then we can get down. Follow it through the yard. You can see some of the detail. I didn't add a ton, but I figured these kind of yards, not a lot of any growing material, but there might be some old scrap stuff laying around. I tried to throw in some papers here and there. There's the engine in view. But there's a library that you can get with the program where you can download all these are known as assets. Cars, people, buildings, all kinds of stuff. People make a whole nother hobby into itself. But the point is that there's just a ton of stuff available, all these textures, even these little newspapers, the grass that you can lay in, switch machines of different types, things that move. If you do it right, you can actually unload and load cars There's ways to do it. I haven't done it to where this gondola, for example, you pull up next to something and then the gondola would fill and then you pull it away, or the gondola would go to a tipple and it would empty. So it's really quite a robust and fun program. Like I said, I use it primarily for designing, and gives me a lot of joy. And every time I get an idea, I just kind of drop into the program and see what I can come up with. And with that, we are just about back at the barge. Kind of want to make sure I have enough room here that I don't push these cars off the end and create a dilemma. But with that, we're almost done with this presentation. So I hope you learned a little something. Hope you got something out of the design or some ideas maybe you can pick up on. And yeah, as I like to say, and I do my other modeling videos, you have a great modeling day out there. That's all for now from Rocklin, California. You have a good one. Bye now.